I am back. What a time to be alive. Hope you guys didn't miss me too much. Just when we thought that Alibaba actually bottomed the previous time around at $130, I released a video stating why I think it has yet to bottom. And people were claiming that I was salty. On that same note, just when I was catching up on the markets, there were huge developments surrounding China. Again, China asked Didi, the ride-hailing champion, to delist from US based on security fears. My, is this the downfall of all Chinese companies? Where are we going from here on for Alibaba? Remember to smash the like button and subscribe to join me in this marathon with Alibaba. I know I have missed out a lot over the last 2 weeks. China is a gift that never stops giving. I will definitely be catching up with the cycle over the next 1 week or two, so I'm sure you won't want to miss it. With that, let's get right into what actually transpired. So, Chinese regulators actually asked Didi's top executive to devise a plan to delist from the United States, an unprecedented request that's likely to revive fears about Beijing's intention for its giant tech industry. Essentially, investors are applying the same logic on the tech crackdown. If the Chinese government is able to turn an industry upside down overnight, what's to stop them from targeting the e-commerce industry particularly? On that same note, if they can demand Didi to delist from the US, what's stopping them from delisting Alibaba as well? Those are all valid concerns, by the way, but there is an important ingredient we forgot to discuss in this entire recipe for disaster: intention. Let me repeat, because it seems like many people don't understand what this word means. Intention. What's their intention? Why are they doing it? What are they afraid or cautious about? How is this going to appease the different concerns? To give the regulators the benefit of doubt, they cite concerns about leakages of sensitive data. Initially, when regulators are probing into the company during the period shortly after they IPO'd, they cited notices referring to national security, to serious problems with illegal and irregular collection and use of personal data. So Didi then defended their position, stating that all their information related to Chinese users is actually stored in China, and even the VP, Li, wrote on Weibo that the company was willing to sue over speculations that it had shared sensitive information during the IPO process. Clearly, if the VP was so confident, the problem isn't revolving around the leak, but the actual collection of sensitive information, which might or might not be illegal without much explanation. Now, we can easily come to the conclusion that even the Didi representative neither confirmed nor denied the collection of data to be deemed as sensitive or not, or whether is it illegal. To sum it all up, based on my own speculation, don't sue me please Didi, but China is just paranoid of the potential leakage and concerns on the troves of data that Didi has access to. Hence, to cut the long story short, they don't want them to have overseas exposure, especially to a country that grabs them by the neck. Reasonable? Up for you to decide. Anyway, the current proposal under the considerations include a straight-up privatization or a share float in Hong Kong, followed by a delisting from the United States. So, if the privatization actually proceeds on, the proposal will likely be at least $14, which is the IPO price, since a lower offer so soon could prompt lawsuits or even shareholders' resistance. Now, I find it extremely amusing though. I would love to see what actually transpires if they decide with this entire straight-up privatization, and what would their offer price be. Clowns like to say that, hey, China's sole intention is to siphon international investors' capital, right? They could very well just drag on this investigation and close the deal by buying back their shares at a dirt cheap price. That would have been the real heist of this century. On top of that, clowns also like to say and claim that China and Chinese companies have blatant disregard to the legal requirements and law. Why would they even be concerned about legal implications? Just pull the rug like Squid Game coin, man. Currently, Didi is actually trading at around $8, give or take. There are even speculations that Beijing's government actually proposed an investment in the company that would actually give state-run firms effective control, and such an investment could actually help Didi finance the repurchase of its US traded shares. Either option ultimately will leave a bad taste in investors' mouth, but those that picked it up when it was about $8 gets a buyout at $14 might ultimately be the winner of life. Anyway, to go back to the Didi's pre-IPO, we cannot forget that there were regulatory requests from China hinting the company to pause their actions in US so that they can ensure the security of data before the IPO. But the management decided to proceed on. So what exactly can we take away from this? I personally think that there are 3 key lessons we can look into. Firstly, China's government is as strong as ever. You don't have to question their determination and their capabilities. They are so much more efficient than many governments out there. But it inevitably scares the living hell out of investors because they can't seem to understand what they are doing. I, on the other hand, sleep pretty well at night. Might be because ignorance is bliss, or those that constantly say that regulatory risks can't be priced in just simply don't understand what the Chinese government wishes to achieve in the long run, or at least refuses to believe that they can do it for its people and for the country. Funny, isn't it? In Chinese, we actually have this saying, 以小人之心度君子之腹. Simply put, when certain things are unclear, we better not simply jump to our own conclusions. But somehow, humans tend to be more inclined to conclude negatively. Worse still, an originally noble act can be misinterpreted by people as something horrible. CCP can't be so benevolent. They must harbor some ill intentions of some sort. They want to scam international investors. They are evil in nature. Notice anything? Those perspectives are all derived from the thinker or commenter in this case. It's all me, and me. They can't be that noble because I know I'm not. Clowns. I'm going to outline what I think are the few key principles of the government, but in another video, because it's not relevant here. It definitely helped me sleep better at night. Maybe it might help you too. On point number 2, clowns also like to conclude that all these developments, especially crackdown on technology, is a case for a broader effort to curb the power of the internet giants, because they are essentially trying to threaten the power of the administration. If you even bother understanding the intent and philosophy of all these crackdowns, and on top of that, the new regulations being introduced, if you ever bother understanding the concept of power and wealth in the Chinese society, this conclusion will literally make you realize that you sound exactly like a clown. To not belabor the point, the concept of power and wealth are separated in China. Power is always one notch above wealth. The government is not threatened by these big tech firms. If they want to shut them down today, they can, but what's the point? The fundamental core for most of these regulations are to protect both the users and stakeholders that have been receiving the shorter end of the stick when engaging with all these tech titans. In the short run, sure, these companies will definitely be affected in terms of margins, in terms of profits, etc. But the focus of investing in companies is in their longevity and ability for them to help me compound my capital. If all they do is engage in unsustainable business practices, squeeze out additional margins by not providing even basic insurance coverage for people working for them, then these companies deserve to be lynched by the government. Don't ever forget, who does the government answers to? The people. Even though you might not want to believe that the CCP cares about the people, the last 10 years have kind of served as a record that they kind of do care. On point number 3, in every single development, there are 2 sides of a coin. The media usually sells you the side that appeals to your fundamental fight or flight response. Fear, anxiety, stress. Yes, at face value, if you go down the slippery slope, since the government has set this precedence on turning industries into non-profit and forcing companies to delist elsewhere, they can do this theoretically to anyone under their charge, including Alibaba. Then, upon closer inspection, we then realize that, oh, the education industry is actually a fundamental pillar of any country. Businesses are eroding the underlying culture, kids are getting stressed out, parents are feeling the heat to send their kids to tuition in order to keep up, cost of living increases, and people are avoiding birth altogether. Regulating edtech doesn't seem so unreasonable anymore. Same here, if a company do possess information that a country deemed as national security, are their concerns really unwarranted and unfounded? On the flip side, if you were to take a look at my side of the coin, it might suggest the underlying philosophy of the current administration. If they really couldn't be bothered to engage with the US regulators of any sort, they wouldn't have investigated and waste so much time and effort on the companies that are listed on the United States. They might as well just call back every single one of them sensitive or not, big or small, it does hint that the regulators are actually willing to come to a compromise and are working amongst themselves to see how far they can actually draw the line. Although we know that the US regulators will probably continue pushing their luck and pushing the line and exercising their superiority to push the boundaries, so ultimately the delisting of Alibaba is not completely off the table. We just need to see how this chip is being played in the negotiations amongst both countries. Side note, it seems to me that the people are currently under the impression that the CCP is just a bunch of monkeys who can't think. People assume that they can't run their own analysis, they don't know the importance of capital, and they don't know how to manage a country. Please, with a country this huge and this amount of growth in the last 20 years, I think you can find real monkeys elsewhere. The biggest problem on this delisting issue really lies on how far the US regulators wishes to push their luck. With that, I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I'll see you on the moon. Goodbye!